Spoilers for Sex Education Season 3. So this video is going to be a lot different from the ones that I usually make. For one, I'm not going to weave through the seasons to like link things together because I don't find that it's like that kind of show. Two, I'm really tired and traveling for what is technically work soon, so I don't really want to go through things like step by step. And three, the main reason why I'm making this is to address a specific thought that I've seen swirling online that's particularly linked to this one article that pissed off Asa Butterfield, star of Sex Education, enough that he tweeted about it. And the article is titled, "It's time to accept that Otis Milburn is the villain of Sex Education. No offense to Asa Butterfield, but Otis is a despicable friend, boyfriend, and son." Holy shit. Just before we go any further, don't go shit on the author of this article or anything. It's really not that serious. I think you can rag on the article without going at the person. I just felt like this was an interesting jumping off point for the discussion. Okay, yes, Otis has done some pretty shitty things. And yes, I realize that this is intended to be some kind of like light-hearted comedic rant to drive clicks. One of the points about him being a bad son is literally just linked to disrespecting Gillian Anderson, not Gene the character, literally Gillian Anderson, and it refers to him as Otis Milbitch instead of Milburn. I'm sure it's coming from a place of some level of honesty, but it's absolutely amped up for clicks. I get the game, I'm a YouTuber, but it definitely reflects some thoughts I've seen swirling on social media, so I want to address it. Also, I don't know this dude, maybe this is all very serious to him. But I figured I'd also take some time to address some other issues I have with this particular season, but then also highlight the things that I like, because I do still think it was a good season. Or at least I enjoyed watching it. So I assure you this is unbiased, and speaking frankly, out of the central three characters, Otis would be my least favorite, so there isn't some kind of like loyalty defense going on here. That would be for Maeve. Before we fully dive in, I gotta talk about today's sponsor, Raycon. Now, when I was in high school 50 years ago, I loved listening to music while I was in class. But I had to implement a series of concealment tactics to make sure my teachers didn't see my earbuds, and it didn't always work. But with Raycon, that wouldn't have been an issue. With a sleek and comfortable design, 8 hours of playtime, a 32-hour battery life, built-in microphone, and seamless Bluetooth integration, Raycon are my go-to for listening to books, movies, and music while running errands, exercising, and just generally trying to keep my life together. The new everyday earbuds feature a variety of colors, multiple bud sizes, and an improved rubber oil look and feel, so you can always find your perfect pair and noise-isolating fit. Whether you're at home, work, commuting, or at school, Raycon has you covered. They start at about half the price of other premium wireless earbuds on the market, and if for some reason you're not completely satisfied, Raycon offer a 45-day free return policy. Because co-founder Ray J cares about your audio experience. So if you want to try Raycon out for yourself, head on over to buyraycon.com/Jedi or click the link in the description down below to save 15% off of your purchase. So to start off, what is sex education? Well, it's good. It's very good. I'm a huge fan of coming-of-age stories, and season 1 of Sex Education is amongst the best coming-of-age comedies I've ever seen. And it weaves through the life of Otis, son of renowned sex therapist played by Gillian Anderson, and while he struggles in those areas himself, being surrounded by manuals, books, and his mother has given him some unique insights that he starts sharing with his fellow classmates. And with the help of Maeve, resident bad girl, they turn the whole thing into an underground sex therapy clinic for their classmates, which is where he ultimately realizes he likely needs some therapy himself. Each episode seems to start with like a different couple and their individual like relationship issues that get dealt with in the show, while the general conflict of the main characters is playing out around it. It also has an amazing bromance between Otis and his friend Eric, a wide range of representation from sexualities to gender identities, and the will they, won't they for the ages between Otis and Maeve. It's great, and while season 2 wasn't as good, I do still feel like the general ideas and plot points brought up transferred over well. But season 3 definitely felt like a drop-off for a handful of reasons, but I can assure you that I don't feel that any of those reasons are Otis being a villain. It's still good, but it started running into issues that a lot of other television shows face when writers think that every character that people online like or that they've put care into needs more screen time, which undoubtedly splits the strength of the show and then pulls away the focus from the central cast. See the progression of the last few seasons of Dexter to see one of the most egregious examples of that happening? Because this season isn't focusing on the central cast to the slightly extended central cast of like Otis, Maeve, Eric, Amy, and Adam. It's like 10 other people, and then 10 other secondary characters, and a goat. The goat can stay. This is Sex Education, not Degrassi, where we're supposed to be weaving through 30 characters' lives. at whatever it takes. Can't wait till next season where we build out Naked Running Boy from Game of Thrones backstory. A lot of the side characters on this show are interesting and resonated with a lot of people, so I get it. But when this show is working with 8 episodes and not the CW 21 to 24, you just don't have the luxury to flesh out that many characters to the degree this show is trying to. Maybe even if they had 10 episodes, they could flesh out some of those ideas a little bit better, but as it stands, a lot of central characters just make the same mistakes they've made before, or they're just chilling in some weird limbo, rehashing the same arcs until their time to shine on screen pops up. I think the storyline of what's happening with the school and the students in the school is important and handled pretty well, but there somehow ended up being episodes that felt like they were wasted this season, which shouldn't be possible with 8 episodes and that many characters. There's a Pusak episode. Pusak. I realized that Pusak was a way to create a conflict to get like Adam and Raheem talking in a certain way, but like still. Unrelated, in this episode, did anybody think that Viv was gonna accidentally sext Hope? Anyways, it's not like there weren't enough conflicts for them to be dealing with. We have Otis still casually sleeping with Ruby, who honestly treats him like shit until they go public, but then she's still trying to change the way he dresses, walks, and acts. Jean is pregnant and still hasn't told Jakob. Maeve being into Isaac and things being weird with Otis because Isaac deleted the voicemail he left, so she never heard it. Maeve then dealing with Isaac doing that. Maeve dealing with her sister and her mom again. Maeve having an opportunity to study abroad in America. Amy still dealing with what happened to her on the bus and how it's affecting her relationships. Eric and Adam trying to make things work as a couple, Adam trying to just be a better person overall. Ola and Lily are just like not working in sync because Lily's so obsessed with aliens and not paying attention to what Ola is feeling. Michael dealing with his asshole brother in the separation, but still not fixing things with Adam. The new headmistress who's trying to get the school in order, but largely being horrendous. Jackson being into Cal, who's non-binary and not knowing what that means for him. Viv sucking up to the new headmistress even though she knows she's completely wrong about things. Jean telling Jakob about the baby and him moving in with Ola. Ola being really terrible to Otis, but it's being played up as Otis being unreasonable. No, sorry Ola, if you touch my belongings without my permission, I'm going to snap. Lily's starting to feel self-conscious about the alien stuff because Ola wants to have normal sex sometimes. Lily's story then being used as fuel against the school. Otis shutting people out because he's conflated being a good friend with giving advice that he'll get in trouble for. Maeve and Otis trying to fix things. Isaac and Otis feuding over Maeve. Bad sex education and overall changes at the school. It's a lot, and some characters fall into the same bad behaviors that we've already dealt with. The really bad one to me is Eric cheating again, but then not even really feeling that guilty about it because he's unhappy with Adam not being as out and proud as he is.
You don't feel bad?
I feel bad I hurt you.
But you wouldn't take it back?
No, I don't think I would.
Also, Eric has the sweater now too. And I think a lot of these issues stem from the show knowing that it was likely getting renewed for a 4th season. It means that things that are intended for being the ending have to keep getting pushed off so that the show has conflicts to work with. It's an issue that a lot of television shows fall into because they never know how many seasons they're gonna end up getting. It's why How I Met Your Mother's ending is so shit, because they had a general idea of how they wanted it to end but didn't know they were gonna get like 9 seasons, which then resulted in us getting multiple seasons and episodes of being shown exactly why Robin and Ted would never work as a couple, and then you build up these other relationships that we get invested in and genuinely like, so that the show then feels like it got ruined in literally 2 episodes. So if the show want Otis and Maeve to be endgame, which I think they do, it means they can't properly have them be together because it would remove a bunch of potential branches from their storyline as long as the show keeps getting renewed. And obviously a big focus of a show like this is going to be those character relationships. It's why some people are all in for the Adam redemption arc and other people think it's fucked up that Eric was interested in dating somebody who was that horrible to him. I agree with that sentiment, but I'm also totally on board with the Adam redemption tour. I would also like to see more of his future career as a dog show trainer. But I also think Eric's behavior and his justification for it is shit, which really sucks because I love Eric and his friendship with Otis. He's typically a really good person and they just had him be really horrible here. But as mentioned, the show's main relationship focus has always been Otis and Maeve, who were left off at the end of last season, admittedly not even really friends because Otis was a dick.
I think she's probably the most selfish person I've ever met.
Which brings us back to the article, which mentions something specifically known as the Otis pattern. How he wants Maeve, it doesn't happen, he gets with someone else, but still likes Maeve, rinse and repeat. Saying that he's purposely stealing their hearts and then crushing them. And they say rinse and repeat, but it happened twice. Honestly, the time with Ola, he made a genuine effort to do things right. She's the one who ended things so she could make a move on Lily. And the other time in this most recent season, I don't think he did anything wrong. I'll touch on that in a bit, but first, Loves as a teenager hit hard. That shit will keep you coming back mentally for years sometimes because teenage hormones and just the thought of what could have been. And the number one piece of advice is to try and move on, which is what he did. After a party, Otis starts up some sexcapades with Ruby, the resident popular mean girl. But Ruby doesn't want anyone to know. He's her dirty little secret with the creeper mustache and all. She's embarrassed to be even seen with him in public at a friend capacity.
And you are a badly dressed, sick man with a creepy moustache.
You said you liked my moustache.
But it turns out she does like him. She's just struggling to get over her issues with needing to maintain a particular image. So when their hookups get leaked to the school by Lily, she just owns it. Except she insists that he dress the way she approves of in order to be seen in public with him, and that still doesn't make him good enough.
Oh, we're just having casual sex. I would never date him.
But eventually she does open up, realizes she likes him for him, he stands up for himself and who he wants to be. She even brings him to her home, which she's been ashamed of her entire life. Much like Addison Rae's character in He's All That, Ruby's home doesn't match the lifestyle she outwardly presents, and her dad is struggling with the effects of MS, so her home life is really stressful. And this is where one of the asshole items arises in the article and where the general public seems to be upset with the show. After being horrible, Otis and Ruby finally get on a good page. They're happy, having fun, going on double dates where Adam is actually making progress, Ruby is opening up more, and Otis really likes her. Then Ruby tells Otis that she loves him.
Oh, that's nice.
And this is apparently something that Otis is a villain for. Could he have maybe said something a little bit different than "that's nice"? Probably. But the real villain behavior would have been to tell her that he loves her when he doesn't. In that specific moment, it didn't have anything to do with Maeve. He was invested in making the relationship work. And then she's the one who gets weird and ends things. Even though love takes time, and not that long ago, she was ashamed to even be near him. And because of that, we're supposed to believe he's a villain for being honest. You could argue that it was wrong of him to date Ruby if he was still having feelings for Maeve, but by every indication, they weren't even like friends anymore. And that's what you're supposed to do to get over somebody. Date new people. Otis was likely closing himself off emotionally in a lot of ways, and Ruby was safer and easier even without being casual. Even Ruby potentially seeing him kiss Maeve isn't on him because they weren't together anymore. And an unintended benefit of the situation is that she ended up becoming more open to her friends and actually reaching out for help when she needed it and letting them into her life more. And it's not like he planned for any of this to happen, it all just came to a head because he and Maeve finally spoke and he was able to share what he said in the voicemail. Villain behavior would have been lying to Ruby and saying that he loved her, then cheating on her without any kind of remorse. Oh, wait.
But you wouldn't take it back.
No, I don't think I would.
Why did they do this?
I feel like a bad person. I don't even know why I did it.
Okay, he obviously feels some degree of remorse, but you get what I mean. If anything, the real villains here are the writers for making beloved characters do stupid things. But back to Ruby. People really liked her and Otis together. And when she stopped being terrible, I liked them together, as long as they were away from her friends. When she opened up to him, it was nice, and I would have liked to see more of that. So I get why people wish they'd stayed together and why people are upset that Ruby's storyline basically dips out from this point on to accommodate the other 57 characters. But Ruby's the one who ended things, and there's nothing Otis could have done except lie. Now, as mentioned, another item on the list of villain behavior is how he's treating his mom. And yeah, he does some childish things and he's quite unfair to her, but he's a teenager. Who amongst us was not unreasonable with our parents when we were teenagers? I'll admit it, if my mom had gotten pregnant when I was in high school, I too would have been frustrated with the situation at hand. Especially considering he's gone from being an only child to having Jakob and Ola move in to Ola being fucking horrible with no boundaries. Again, touch my stuff without my permission, I will lose my shit. To be fair to Ola, she's also struggling. She's missing her mom and she's leaving her actual home to move into someone else's. So I get some of her behavior, and I do really like the friendship she has with Adam this season. I wish we could have seen more of that. She's just a really bad roommate. So yeah, while Otis acts like a shit and really immature in certain situations for chunks of this season, the article doesn't even mention his constant game of trying to one-up Isaac in a serious situation. That's kind of the point of a coming-of-age story. Teens fuck up, they make mistakes, they act impulsively and do stupid things. But it's what you do after being an idiot that matters. And I do think Otis makes up for it. He apologizes to a lot of the people he feels like he was unfair to.
Still behave like a child most of the time.
Yeah, it takes her almost dying for him to like really open up, but you know, like sometimes like tragedy happens. A big aspect of Otis's arc this season is realizing that he didn't much like the way he was behaving, that he was having issues conflating being a good friend with running a paid advice service, which made him pull back from just giving good advice as a friend to help people.
Ever since you stopped doing the clinic, you stopped caring about anyone but yourself.
I feel like a major aspect of this show has always been the split between the advice Otis gives, the compassion he has for people, and the way he genuinely helps them, versus his own actions and behaviors. It just seems odd to peg him out as the villain when you have characters like Hope, who are literally trying to dictate student gender identities and comfort levels, manipulating some for insider info, pretending to be cool and hip, and then putting them through abstinence-only sex education. The one nice thing that can be said is that she let Cal wear pants instead of a skirt because she's a feminist. I get that she was in a tough position for a lot of what she had to do, but for our main cast, she's a villain.
I don't think my story was dirty.
Then why is everyone laughing at you?
Yeah, she has her own personal struggles that can be sympathized with, but it doesn't excuse a lot of the things she says and does, and she's what the students can unify against. Maybe it's because I've watched and read some of the most toxic and unhealthy teen relationships in media in existence.
Fucking Trevor!
But I feel like while Otis has done some dickish things, he doesn't really come close to a lot of that other really intense stuff, and I don't think anything he did this season was particularly chart-topping Otis dick behavior. I don't think a single thing he did this season was worse than the drunk speech he gives in season 2, but even that felt like a build-up from months of frustration and Ola pulling a bait and switch. And I don't think he did anything to the extent of bailing on Eric's birthday, which resulted in him being assaulted. Otis is just a teenager. He's gonna make mistakes. And a lot of the frustrations people are having are with the decisions the showrunners are making for characters. Like, there was no reason to have Eric cheat. He could have just gone to that gay bar and realized he loved the feeling of being like out and open and comfortable like that, and then Adam not being down to also join in on that lifestyle just being the cause of their breakup. But touching on writing choices brings us back to the Maeve thing. Now, I really love Maeve as a character. She's my favorite of the central cast, and I want her to flourish, which it seems like she just might. But again, the series is in a weird spot. The showrunners and most of the viewers clearly see Otis and Maeve as endgame. But they can't just put them together because, as mentioned before, it removes a bunch of plot options for them. How do you have a coming-of-age comedy with drama elements when your main characters, who are also the main will-they-won't-they couple, are already together before the show's concluded? That's why they throw in Isaac, who seems really nice at first, but he's actually pretty manipulative and thinks the choice that he wants to make for Maeve is the best for her, but it's actually just what he wants. The second he revealed what he did, Maeve should have been out of there long term. I get that she really wanted to make it work and she's resolved a lot of her trust issues over the season, but that was like a pretty massive betrayal of trust. Again, deleting an entire voicemail that took away her agency in the Otis situation. It's like they changed aspects of her personality to fit around a character that's literally a distraction from the end game. I also felt like they caused like an unnecessary rift between her and Amy over money in the Pooh episode, but I still love her, and she too is a teenager who will have irrational reactions to situations because of her upbringing and just who she is. So back to the happy couple. They deal with their feelings and finally decide to get together, but Maeve ends up taking her opportunity to study abroad in America, and I am so glad she did. I also really like that it was Amy that talked some sense into her. Maeve has had so many different opportunities like pulled away from her because of money issues, family issues, living situations. So to finally have something pop up that she's earned completely of her own merit, has the money to do it, and feels like she can do it safely because the people she loves are okay, it's amazing. We've had to sit through so many shows where characters give up major opportunities to pursue relationships when the right relationships with the right people will work out eventually. It really was refreshing to see someone take that opportunity, even if it is so that the writers can just draw out the will they won't they just a little bit longer. But that's my biggest piece of relation advice out there to most people. It's really easy to get hung up on relationships and love and obsess that feeling of new, but please don't live a life of what ifs because of a high school relationship that probably isn't gonna last. If you get the opportunity to do something amazing, take it. That is me telling to you, if you need that push, do it. As long as it's not like a multi-level marketing scheme or something. Like, we're talking real opportunities here. But obviously her going to America is another rift between her and Otis, so that they can just ride out that separation drama for another season. So I can rightfully understand why a lot of people are exasperated, and some people don't even want Maeve and Otis to be together anymore, and honestly, I don't even know who I want Maeve to be with at this point. And now there's all the people that got super invested in Ruby and Otis and want that to be endgame. So what I'm saying is, your real ailments, and therefore the real villains, are the showrunners. They're the ones who are making these side relationships work in a way that you're getting invested in them. I'm sure there's a bunch of like Isaac stans out there, and I No. Maeve just deserves better than all of this. That's not to say that they got everything wrong. Like, I really love Maeve and Amy's relationship. I love that even when she was not at all on good terms with Otis, she still reached out to him to get Amy help, because despite some flaws, she is a great friend. I really like the way the show is fleshing out Adam as a character and making him try to get more in tune with himself and be a better person. I do think that the moments of intimacy they showed between Maeve and Isaac, even if I have issues with Isaac, were really well handled. I don't really like what they did with Eric a lot in this season, but I do still feel like he's a great character, and I still love the dynamic between him and Otis. And I do think that Otis has done a good job making amends for the things that he's done. So is Otis the real villain of Sex Education Season 3, or even the show as a whole? No, he's just the main character of a coming-of-age story. And main characters in a coming-of-age story are gonna fuck up. It's up to the characters he interacts with whether or not they want to forgive him for certain actions, but he always works to make things better. Sadly, the reality of continuing a show for multiple seasons is that things aren't going to feel as tight anymore, especially when the creators don't have any kind of solid idea of when it's going to end. It happens in a lot of shows. You'll see it happen again in You Season 3 this week, which, unlike Sex Education Season 3, which despite its issues, I still would give it like a 7 to a 7.5 out of 10, was not good. Video on that next week. This season at least still had some solid advice, displays of friendship, a unifying cause for students to get invested in, good representation, serious issues addressed properly. I personally wish we had gotten more of Amy's progression there, but I do really like what they did with Adam. And my hope for Season 4 is that they realize the strength behind a unified, tightened cast. But since Maeve is going to America to study abroad, that is a whole new cast of kids that the show has to work with, so I'm worried. I still think they can end things off in a satisfying way, but it's going to be really hard to maybe even impossible for them to bring things back to that first season glory. But hey, maybe I'm completely wrong. Let me know if you have vastly different thoughts down below. But that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Thanks as always to my Patreon supporters. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, leave a like on the video if you're into that kind of thing. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm mostly okay, and we'll catch you all later.